Hey everyone, Avengers Infinity War has been in theaters for a week now, and you know what? You've had time to see the movie, so look out, we're gonna talk about the ending. Guys, the shocking departures in this movie, oh boy. Are the characters whom we saw die or fade away really dead or faded away? Can they come back? Can things be like reset in some way? If so, how would that work? We'll get to those questions, but first, welcome to New Rockstars News. It's our deep dive into all the biggest stories this week, and it's Star Wars Day, guys. It's May the 4th. We're also gonna talk about the upcoming Han Solo movie. Yes, it's still happening. Star Wars Episode 9 rumors, and then we're gonna chat about the Swamp Thing streaming series and whether or not the Infinity Gauntlet still works. I'm Erik Voss. Joining me at this table are...
Over here, Sam Bashor. How's everyone doing?
Oh.
Hey, I'm Filup Molina, and I brought a friend with me today, and Sam doesn't know this person.
Oh, yeah.
This is DJ Wooldridge. Everybody give it up for DJ.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, too.
You might know him from Sam's podcast,
with
DJ, Only Stupid Answers. But also, DJ is producing a comic book, and we're going to get into that later, but he's like indie self-funding or whatever, and you guys should definitely check it out. DJ knows everything there is to know about comics.
Don't put that on me.
He put it in his own comic. It references everything, and it's better than every comic that's ever come out.
If you thought Avengers was a big multi-cross, castleyourcomic.com.
We'll get back to that later, though.
Yeah, let's. We will talk about that, but for now, let's get started with our top story: the shocking ending of Avengers: Infinity War. Thanos was successful in his mission to snap half the universe out of existence, including half of the Marvel heroes we know and love. Among them were some heroes who will most likely get their upcoming sequels of their own. Spider-Man's follow-up to Homecoming will start shooting in July, and the third Guardians of the Galaxy was given a release date in May 2020. And yeah, you better believe we're going to get another Black Panther movie. That's just not going to happen.
It's not confirmed they'll be in those films.
Right. Oh, right. So they just might use the title and cruelly leave them out.
It's Ned.
So what if they really went all in with that and they were like, no, every Marvel movie from here on out is a prequel. It takes place before Infinity War.
They're all in the 90s. They all have beepers.
10-year-old Spider-Man has not been bitten by a spider yet.
And they said it was going to be international, so it's when he went on a vacation with his parents when they were still around.
And we get to see how his parents died, and he ended up with Uncle Ben and Aunt May.
Yay!
Everybody's favorite.
Another one of those scenes.
So the real question.
The real question is, how are they really dead? If they aren't dead, where do they go? And how could they come back? Now, I actually think it would be good to first talk about the other characters that we saw die throughout the movie prior to Thanos' snap. Reverse snap there. Remember, Loki got choked to death. Heimdall got impaled in the chest, and unlike pretty much every other character that got impaled in the chest in the movie, it actually killed him. Gamora got thrown off a cliff so Thanos could get the Soul Stone. Vision got his Mind Stone ripped out of his circuitry, and it turned him into this lifeless gray color. And of course, all the members of the Black Order died, but who cares about sub-villains? Guys, I mean, it might be a dumb question, but are these deaths permanent? Is there any way that these characters could be brought back? In
these specific ones, these ones you just mentioned?
Yeah.
I feel bad saying this. The only one I feel super confident we will probably not see again is Heimdall.
Oh, for sure.
I feel the one I feel confident we will definitely see again is Gamora.
She seems
because Guardians.
She seems essential for Guardians.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a Guardians movie without her.
I'll throw out that even though Loki. Thanos even said like no more resurrections for him or whatever. Even though he said that, I could still see him coming back. And there was just one. If you're looking for a little ray of hope, later when Thor is talking about him, he says specifically the word might.
Yeah.
He's like, and this really might be the last time. Or whatever. And I was like, ugh.
Little conditional.
Why would you introduce the possibility that it might not be if you're not going to whip that back?
It was the only time also, because since Loki died before, this was the most emotion we ever got out of Thor for him dying. So I feel like that should be assigned to us as the viewers. One, better directing, but also that this might actually mean more than other times.
Sam just said might. It might mean more.
Well, to be fair, I'm not the one making the movies, so I don't know. Honestly, I think also our pink boy over there is not going to do too great, but is he even alive? He's evolving. Couldn't you just plug that sucker right back in?
If you don't have a soul,
they put the Soul Stone. they put the Soul Stone into Vision.
And
Gamora
he can
possesses
dance.
Vision body. Gamora comes back as an android. Guardians 3 confirmed.
Yeah, I think I honestly, as much as I like all these characters, I'd be bummed if any of them did. Like, I think
Come back.
If they did come back. Yeah, I think we will see some of the fader wearers come back, but if we go all the way back and find ways to bring these characters back, like, some people have to die in order for these things to have stakes, right?
No.
I don't know. Does Vision
sorry,
have I mean,
but
here's a real question. Does Vision have a backup on a Wakanda server somewhere?
That is a good question. Yeah.
Reprogramming him when he went, so like maybe.
And she'd
but
be
again,
like, I'm gonna do a backup.
of the ones that would go permanent, is like Vision's fine. You can have Vision.
Yeah.
he did his bit. He was more important than I ever expected him to be.
No,
Yeah.
I want him more. I want more of that pink boy. I want him flying around, phasing through walls. I'm not really sure how his powers work.
Yeah. Let's try a slightly different angle on whether or not they would come back from kind of a character arc perspective. Did they complete their arcs, right? I do think Vision is the most human you ever see Vision in this movie.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, we
Oh,
actually
yeah.
see him that way, but then also, I mean, that might be hitting us over the head with it,
Yeah.
but he also, he cares more about a human being and love than his duties as a male sex bot. And then Loki is probably the most redeemed that he's been.
Yeah.
He also refers to himself as Odin's son, which is something that I think, completes kind of a little bit of his arc in the Thor movies specifically, how he's not Odin's son, and yet, he says that he is in that moment. Did Heimdall ever have an arc?
He just let him go. Let Idris Elba go do anything else. Like,
new James Bond.
there you go.
He got his paycheck. He can do other things now.
He had such
So-
cool hair.
Yeah.
Did she complete an arc?
No.
That's the one I think
Right.
is maybe open.
No,
Yeah.
you got at least she had so much, like, she covered so much ground as a character in this movie, which I really appreciated, not just in her love life, but also with her father, which I mean was pivotal for the movie. I don't think that's enough. That's not an ending for her. It was a cool moment for her, but I think we all kind of agree that she's probably the one that will come back first, and then we'll get Force Ghosts of the 3 over there.
Well, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if in Guardians 3 we see like Peter for some reason remembers all the like big declarations of love and she doesn't. So now classic like soap opera comic book
500
stuff.
Days of Summer type
Yeah,
thing.
so it's like
Oh, well, also in the comics, Gamora has a really big tie, like in this movie with the Soul Stone. Usually it's this weird, I did a whole video on the Soul Stone and it still doesn't make it understandable, but it's that there's a dimension which you saw in the movie where it's like this pool, reflecting pool, and it looks like it's like a piece of Gamora's homeworld, and you see her as a baby. That's the soul world that's like a little pocket dimension within the soul gem. So usually in the comics, for some reason, she and Adam Warlock decide to just go live in there, and she can leave whenever she wants. So I think,
And they can. This is true. They can make it really hot, like the outside of the stone. Like so, someone's like, "Ow!" while they're holding it, and it's actually part of how they.
They just have blow dryers on the outside, make it real.
that's actually a super weird part of the Infinity Gauntlet comic because
they're already in there.
They just jumps in with them leaving, and so that's the one part that the rest of it you can kind of just pick up that comic and you like get the gist of it. That's the one like what because they possess criminals' bodies right before they die, and then they go into cocoons to become their true selves. And it's like what's happening? Like what's going on right now?
Well, it brings up this interesting question of mechanics, right? So how could any of these resurrections or returns happen? And I think that kind of brings us to the snap, the other characters we see fade away, because I think it's almost certain that some of them will come back, right? So the characters we saw fade away into dust included Bucky, Black Panther, Groot, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Mantis, Drax, Peter Quill, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and then in the post-credits scene, Nick Fury and Maria Hill. As we mentioned before, these characters can't all be gone forever. A lot of them have sequels in the pipeline, and the way I see it, these people either all went somewhere where they aren't really dead, or somehow their departures will be like rewound or reset in some new reality. How do you guys think this could work?
I think one of the biggest themes from the movie, which we wanted to do there's a lot to unpack from this movie, but one of the big themes is what you're willing to sacrifice to succeed. And so for Thanos, he's willing to do anything, and that's why he wins. And then everybody else, you get this back and forth, which I feel like you can explain it better, but between Vision and Cap, where he's like, no, I'll sacrifice myself. He's like, no, we don't sacrifice one. He's like, what? You did it. You did it in World War II. So it's like, I think the way that this would, basically we would probably get a rewound or like a reset on the timeline. Maybe they add new elements, so it's like, oh, it's a new adventure, it's a new universe out there that we get to explore in future movies. But I think we're going to get characters having to make that big sacrifice for it.
A Neo kind of thing, which I mean obviously is taken from the Bible, right? It's the original story of Neo is kind of Jesus, but just that idea.
The computer part.
Rewatch his movies.
I don't know which one came first, but the idea that Neo dies for our sins, and then he kind of is resurrected or whatever. I could see a version of however they fix it. Maybe someone like Cap has to like do that thing where it's like, wait, someone has to stay inside with the bomb.
And you get the classic knock the guy out. No, it's me. Knock the guy out. No, it's me.
If I saw anybody
the thing off,
and then nukes the moon. Is that how that is?
Nukes the moon. Armageddon.
If I saw anybody do that, it would probably be. I think you're right, but I think it would probably be Tony, just because it feels like they've been building towards a redemption arc for him since the jump, but especially since Ultron in Civil War and everything.
Well, and everything. Everything he caused.
Yeah, but I think once you introduce the idea that a magic snap can wipe out half people, then a magic snap can undo that thing. Like it's not the most.
It's a light switch. It's just a little.
It's not the easiest thing because snapping backwards is surprisingly hard.
Yeah. Well, and also an interesting element that they introduce, and it sounds like we're probably going to dive into more, is in the comic, literally, once you have the Infinity Gauntlet, there's no limits. You can just do whatever you want. In this movie, it looks like it takes a certain amount of energy to accomplish stuff, and it looks like the actual mechanism of the Gauntlet itself doesn't do so well hot in the snapping, exerting that much energy,
which is cool. Also, because I rewatched the movie, it looks like it's like fused to his arm now. It looks like the
but he's not wearing it later.
At the end, he is actually.
It's hard to tell.
On the rewatch, the stones might not be there, but it looks like on the rewatch, I specifically was like, and it looks like there's something. Either he put on a gold glove after, but there's something gold still on his arm.
Either it's still on his arm or his arm's screwed up from the thing. Because what I saw, I didn't see gold. I saw charred, messed upness. So ambiguous.
Another reason to watch it again and again.
Just for that 30 seconds that you see his hand.
For us too, right?
Yeah, like what happened to the Gauntlet? We're going to be talking about that later this episode. But yeah, I think that does bring up a good question: is like, will the Gauntlet and the stones be the way out of it, or the way they come back, or will there be some other kind of rules or some other kind of entity from the Marvel world? We mentioned Kronos last week of these other entities that can control time, or are these other kind of god-like deity figures who can kind of change the rules or reset things? We've seen that in sci-fi before.
That would be weird. Instead of a MacGuffin chase again, if they were trying to find another more ancient, because this movie just skipped right over, I think probably to its benefit, all the major Eternals, any other major cosmic entity. In the comics, the universe has a personification, and it just jumps right over all that. But it would be interesting if that was the answer. I know they also talked about when everybody, the set photos of them in the classic Avengers garb, and the directors were like, maybe not the time stone, maybe that barf technology from Civil War that makes you relive your most traumatic memories or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, I don't know how that fixes anything.
And why they have to have that thing on their hand.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that would work, but sure, maybe Tony invented a time machine. Who knows?
That would be pretty fun. That would be cool to see some of the bigger cosmic characters. I would love just to hear the explanation for it. It's like, no, this is a living tribunal.
I mean, it's like seeing how they did Ego.
Ego, you're right, but it is also slightly more approachable. Where you're like, oh no, he can make a thing that we can talk to. And
that's probably
also the living tribunal though went totally the other way.
And they would
it's
probably
a stick now.
They would probably make it like they made Ego celestial. They were probably, instead of like the living personification of the universe, it's another celestial that functions similarly.
See, I think it should be our most handsome actor. It's just like presented. It's just like this is one of our Eternals.
Yeah, it's
Jack Black.
Another way I could.
And he just bring it. He plays guitar to save the universe.
I'd watch it. I'd watch that movie.
That sounds great. And it would be almost presented a dance off to save the universe. Now it's just like a sing off to save the universe.
That was such a good line.
Yeah, such a great line. If it's not some other kind of entity, and we talked about like personal sacrifice, I think that's almost a given, right? Like not all these actors are going to make it through the end of Avengers 4, right? A lot of them seem done. This kind of seems like by resetting it back to the original OG 6 from the first Avengers, seems like it might be at least some of their last movie. Another way I could see it going is like, and I know a lot of you are annoyed that I keep comparing this to the Harry Harry Potter movies, but it is kind of similar with part 1 and part 2. You're chasing these MacGuffins, and then all throughout the Harry Potter books and book 6, you're introduced to this idea of the Horcruxes, right? And you got to find the Horcruxes, and that's kind of the key to the villain's power. And then book 7, they kind of blew our minds. We're like, actually, there's 3 more MacGuffins that are kind of like the other side of it. I wonder if there's like another set of Infinity Stones or another set of like MacGuffins that they have to chase in part 2 that somehow like complete the opposite side of the puzzle that can fend off.
That's interesting.
That's why they're hiding the name of the movie, so it's Avengers MacGuffin
Yes.
Quest.
Yeah.
They don't know.
It's
It's just like
Insert MacGuffin,
you ever
yeah.
wanted more MacGuffins? You better believe there's going to be all of them.
That's an interesting idea because a lot of their big other MacGuffins they just rolled into Infinity Stones. Like in the comics, the Tesseract is a different thing.
Separate thing.
But now it is
Eye of
one of the
Agamotto
stones.
is something else.
Yeah.
There's some people at home that are like, don't know what a MacGuffin is. It's when you get a McChicken and a McFist sandwich and you put them together. Yeah, you put it all
here, you little
together.
dork.
Yeah, and then you chase it for a whole movie, and it has a lot of powers. A MacGuffin sandwich.
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right, yeah.
It's
Any
actually a
Indiana Jones
McChicken
movie.
The thing, that might be too much, but I don't know. It could be. Give them something else to do. They did say that like the title of Avengers 4 would be a spoiler. So
No,
that's why
but then they also were like, we didn't mean like that big a deal. We meant more like if we say the title, then you guys are going to be like, who cares about Avengers 3?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Where you're going to be thinking about Avengers
They
4.
also said you should be scared by it.
You should be.
Yeah, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Jason Voorhees shows up. That's what everybody wanted. That's how you defeat
Yay, Matt
Thanos.
Damon. He was an actor in Thor Ragnarok, and there's another person in the same universe.
Well, you know,
Jason Voorhees, not Jason Bourne. Okay.
Tim knows that all Jasons aren't the same Jason, right?
My favorite thing about the 4th movie is that Iron Fist is finally going to get the big hero moment that we've all been waiting for.
Right.
Like he gets to put the Infinity Gauntlet on, Iron Fist and all, snaps the
keep
universe,
putting
and we
us-
forget the show exists.
there's your McFist right there.
Did you see that the Russo brothers were like, we actually did consider whether or not we should bring in
No,
the
they didn't.
Thought about
Netflix
it.
characters
For a second.
They said literally for 1 minute.
Yeah.
That's a long minute.
One
I was
minute
a
laughing.
I was a big proponent of it until I saw the movie. I'm like, no, of course you can't.
Only way
this
they
is
could have
already
done it,
too many characters.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
in the post credits, if it had just been we take some visits in some different places and we see some important characters.
Oh man, that'd
Yeah.
be like, if
I do.
that'd be so depressing. It would be like if World War Z in the post-credit scene was like every other place on the planet that didn't get the cure yet. It's like, let's watch these kids die,
Yeah.
and his family
Yeah.
dies. But this is Romania, and this
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
this is
Well,
in
that's
Africa.
what they said. They included Nick Fury and Maria Hill for that reason to make it even more tragic. They want to
Yeah.
show like the ground level of like, no, it's not just the superheroes are fading away.
Yeah,
It's,
I do secretly hope that once they re-snap and these people show up, we still need to punch Thanos one last time.
Right.
And they put out a call, like Cap does one of his classic speeches, like, I don't know who you are, but whatever. So everybody shows up. Like, it's literally just one of those splash pages where, like, all the Avengers, all the Defenders, maybe we even throw the Runaways in there. They're all just there in that one shot running at Thanos.
Why are there 13-year-olds
we
in a
heard the
dinosaur?
X-Men theme.
And roll credits. That's the last shot. You're like,
But yeah, we should also remember that the snap wave affected. Yeah, they affected everyone, not just the characters we saw on screen. And we saw those like anonymous Wakandan soldiers and civilians and that one
guy.
dude. He's
That
like,
one
dude. So I'm curious what this means for MCU characters with the unknown fates, like Clinton Barton and his family, and Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, Hank Pym, Ned Leeds and MJ, Aunt May, Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan, Jane Foster, Valkyrie, Korg, Meek, Wong, Shuri, Queen Ramonda, Wakabi, Everett Ross. Like,
If somebody wants to do a quick cut of all the videos lately, how many lists Erik has done of names, I'm very impressed because you've memorized all of these.
yeah, it's so bad.
I'm going to throw out there really quick. This is regarding future MCU movies who might have been affected by the snap wave.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Ant-Man and the Wasp post-credit scene. Ant-Man is hanging out with his daughter as she fades away.
I mean, because the movie already looks like a ton of fun. That's a great way to cap it off. Of like, you don't get to be happy.
Because I think it would suck if it
Jane
doesn't connect
Foster-
back.
If it doesn't, it has to connect for it to be kind of worth
Like,
it.
I know that
Yeah.
it's set before,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
still think if it's just like, if it wasn't this fun and then we all remember to be sad, like, I think
yeah.
that'd be a bummer.
By the way, I think the best way they could have put the Defenders in there is a quick like insert shot clearly shot on a cell phone of like a test shoot of the Daredevil costume. He's like, and it's just cut back to giant Hulk alien thing like beating up a statue in Central Park, and you're like, Nah, you don't need to put me in here.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm just gonna get in the way.
One theory that I saw that looked really interesting is the reason Clint comes back into the fold is his family are among the people who fade away, and that's
His
what
favorite
drives him to the
child
Ronin
gets
storyline.
taken.
Yeah, you
can
imagine
also-
The other one,
that any
Darcy.
Asgardians leave, like
Yeah.
they disappear. It's like, wait, but you kill half of us, and why are more
Still
people
included?
leaving? Why are we more? Don't half
Yeah.
the half. That's
Didn't
not
we skip
fair.
that part?
The quarter of the Asgardians.
That's not fair.
Yeah, so it would be interesting if, going back to your Ant-Man thing, if it was maybe a way you could do that be a little less painful is if Hank.
No, I want her to scream as she goes.
if Hank Pym vanishes and like Scott freaks out and he calls his wife like, "Hey," and then you stop. Like, is my daughter still there? And you stop.
we
And, you're
don't
like, and then the
know,
rest of us are like, "Oh no,
Probably
she's
not.
gone."
Yeah.
Post credit scene.
Yeah,
She's
she's
burned.
Yeah, no, and so, but it's interesting because the post-credit scene for Ant-Man and Wasp probably deals directly with this, and then Captain Marvel probably also leads into her, the other side of the beeper, like, "Oh no, I got beeped, I got paged, hold on,
Right.
Oh, yeah,
I gotta go save the universe."
Yeah.
Right.
And she's taking a nap
Yeah.
on the Kree homeworld. Like, what's she been up to for?
Yes.
Well, I'm really fascinated to see how that pager is going to
Yeah, when-
undo a block of ice or something.
Yeah, when Ronan was squishing heads, where was she at?
Yeah, exactly. Because she's just not been helpful
Yeah.
this whole
Your
time,
time.
even though they've flat out said she's going to be the most powerful character they've ever introduced.
Yeah, it's
Oops.
We're left with this like essentially a universal rapture event, and I'm just kind of curious to see which characters fade away. That could be a really fun thing that they deal with. Or like, oh god, the Pope got faded away.
I
Yeah.
actually heard stories that they shot a lot of things with supporting characters with them fading, and then they decided to not include that just because, like, once you see Black Panther and Spider-Man go, you're like, what? People get the idea.
Yeah.
like
I love it. I don't know. I would, because I also love.
You cheered during that part.
Yeah, well, I mean, I applaud it every time. I don't feel so good yet, but I
Schindler's
love.
List was great for you.
I'm not abiding to that. I like in post-apocalyptic movies or in disaster movies. I love seeing how humanity has to quickly recover. So, like in Independence Day, for instance, like. The way that the Congress is destroyed and the White House, DC is destroyed, and or anything like Designated Survivor, where it falls all the way down to the Secretary of Education now becomes president. I love seeing those ramifications. So I think it'd be really interesting to kind of see, the world you're talking about, where it's like on the other side of half of the population of, I mean, sure, the universe, but specifically Earth, because that's where I live. Like, what has to change now? Like are there survivors remorse groups? Like, just how does that world work? I don't think they'll get into it.
No, but
Probably
I
not.
do like that because it's a
a new
lot like The
spin-off series.
Leftovers. A lot
Yeah.
like that, where you
Yeah.
get to like dive into like the psychology of like, yeah, like a fourth of the people on the planet disappeared. What do you do now?
Then Cap's phone rings and like, "Cap, you're now president of the world."
Yeah, that's
Oh
how it
my
works.
God.
He was also Secretary of Treasury.
On The Leftovers, it was only like 8% of the world's population or something like that, and that was such like an emotionally devastating thing. Just 8%. Imagine if 50%. Oh boy! Carrie Coon was actually in The Leftovers. She played Proxima Midnight, so it's interesting to see her in
You
this
did
movie.
ask, will we see the Black Order again? Oh, no.
Nope.
But I'm so
Served the purpose.
sad. No, they're fine.
Let us know if you want to. The answer's probably no, but if you want us to get into what would literally happen, kind of like we've gotten into, The Walking Dead. We've had videos about like what would actually happen in that scenario. What would actually happen if we lost half of our population? That's a fun video we can
Wouldn't
make
be
if
great.
you want.
A lot of planes crashed.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
just saw one helicopter, but they're all dead.
Yeah.
Well, let us know down below in the comments with what your theories are for which characters you want to see come back and different ways that they could bring them back in a way that would feel hopefully narratively satisfying. But for now, let's move on to this week's trivia question, everybody. Another, I believe, Infinity War related one.
This is a new graphic.
Oh, what?
Wow.
Look at the silly question
Everybody's
marks.
saying hi to the
They're
new
so happy.
graphic.
A Riddler themed
Yeah.
one. Okay, so
Shout out to Devin.
yeah, shout out to
Hi, Devin.
The question is: in Avengers: Infinity War, Eitri, the blacksmith dwarf of Nidavellir, is played by Peter Dinklage. Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. What line does Eitri say to reference Game of Thrones? Okay, all of our answers are in the bucket. Later, we'll reveal our answer to this trivia question. The closest answer as decided by our judges. We'll do our sign-off goodbyes at the end of the video. Meanwhile, the loser will have to cleverly riff on our In Other News headlines. But let us move on. Okay, guys, quick news update here about Star Wars Episode 9 because it is May the 4th and it's Star Wars Day. Thin actor John Boyega teased that there might be a time jump between The Last Jedi and the start of the third part of the trilogy, saying, quote, "I can't wait to start shooting the next and final leg of the franchise. The first step is growing out my hair, so you can wait for the trailer to see why." Meanwhile, reports said that Episode 9 is also casting a new female character to fight alongside Rey, currently named Caro. The casting notice is looking for a, quote, "captivating naturalness and ease to her manner, someone who's a leader and a problem solver, smart with a great sense of humor and a strong will. All of this comes to her effortlessly," a word that takes a great deal of effort for me to say.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
Is that the definition of Mary Sue that they used?
Kind of. It is like someone who
Basically
can use the Force, who can kickbox, who's great with machines.
That's great, because my one takeaway from the new Star Wars movies is they don't have enough characters. Like each time a new one comes out, they're like, "Don't worry, twice as many characters." Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like this could be one of the Reys in the mirror scene, just popping out of the mirror from Last Jedi. We'll see. Some interesting news there. I'm sure we'll get more.
Shout out to every girl in Miami named Caro. That's it. If you're from Miami, you get that.
That may be your name. That may just be like a fake name that they use in the cast. They tend to do that with casting notices. Like, here's like an insert name here. Like, I believe Kira was the name of Jen Erso or Rey, I think, in the original. Like I don't know. Qiura. Yeah, you can watch our video for that. Speaking of Star Wars news, earlier this week we saw a release of a featurette for Solo: A Star Wars Story. It had a ton of new footage, shots of Han as a stormtrooper in training, traumatized in a swampy battle. Another one where he's thrown in front of a big nasty worm monster. And then there's a bit where he hears Chewbacca roar his original Wookiee name, and he just responds, "You're going to need a nickname because I'm not going to say that every time." Now, director Ron Howard is giving this movie the hard sell as the rite of passage origin story that we've always wanted to see from one of the most exciting names in the Star Wars universe. Meanwhile, in another interview, Alden Ehrenreich spoke about Ron Howard taking over director duties from previous directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller. And he said that the rumors were bullshit, that the cast and crew applauded at the news of their firing. That was something that was going around.
There was a party for 7 days.
One candle stayed lit the whole time.
According to Ehrenreich, the transition was actually a lot smoother, and that's largely thanks to Ron Howard's directing expertise and his experience. Now, Solo drops on May 25th, and to me, guys, it's pretty surprising to see how low excitement seems to be, at least right now, for the movie. A few years ago, Star Wars seemed like the hottest franchise in Hollywood, with Marvel as the number 2, but now it seems like those positions have been flipped. Now, this could just be a product of the negative press around Solo: Star Wars Story, or like Marvel's having its biggest movie ever in this franchise. Maybe Marvel's doing a slightly better job with things like casting and delivering the payoff that fans wanted, arguably. I'm curious to know what you guys' thoughts are as we pivot towards Solo: Star Wars Story is the biggest thing on our radar. What do you think Marvel has done differently with its properties than the Star Wars team has? This is a fair argument to make.
To be clear, we're not discussing, because who cares about like which one's better? Like, that's not really the discussion. It's like everything's great right now and we're living in the best lives anyone's ever had. It's why are we seeing more cultural excitement for the Marvel universe than the Star Wars universe? And anecdotally, I'll just also point out our very recent Solo trailer breakdown didn't do so hot. Most of you don't even know it existed. You can check out the views on that one. And that kind of inspired a little bit of this conversation.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, it is more, everyone's watched Star Wars for the most part. But if you haven't, it's not fun to be that person. It's not fun to be the person that didn't watch Star Wars when you grew up. I saw it. I saw the prequels, and as a kid, I enjoyed those more than the original ones because they were brighter and cooler, and you got lightsaber battles instead of just slow Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi just hitting and then he dies. And it's like, sorry, just explaining that Marvel's more approachable right now, and there's more people going to the theaters than ever. And you feel like you're in on something really special as they're building up to this instead of just a solid trilogy and having 30 years of history prior to that. But they're like, no, there's novels you got to read, and there's comics, and there's video games you got to play, and they're going to pull from all this, and it's going to build up to this massive universe. But it feels like you're halfway through the journey already. With Marvel, it was like, we see the start. It was 10 years ago, and we built up to this. And there's 20 movies, and that's a lot, but that's still not a lot compared to how much Star Wars memorabilia and just literature that's out there.
Right, like not to be ageist, but those 10 years that you just picked out are the people that watch things, right? 18 to 35-year-olds are the ones that go see things. So people that were 8 years old to 25 years old were there for like the beginning, the forging of the Marvel Universe. And they, until being 35, like no one's going to lose interest in the Marvel Universe. How old are that 18 to 35-year-old group that was out when Star Wars started now?
I think it's
they
also
don't see as many movies now.
Because I think the Star Wars franchise kind of overcorrected from the prequels and kind of misunderstood the things people didn't respond to with that one. Because I don't think, especially when you read a ton of think pieces about all these movies, I don't think general people are very good about articulating why they don't like something. And so they just like, here's the thing, everything you loved about Star Wars again. And so episode 7 comes out and it's like, here's the thing you love about Star Wars. And now here's Rogue One. Do you remember the stuff you loved about Star Wars? X-Wings and Death Stars? Well, here it is. And now episode 8 comes out. And guess what? More X-Wings and TIE Fighters and Stormtroopers. And don't worry, Solo goes back in time. So you get to see young Han Solo, who's not Harrison Ford, with TIE Fighters and a Millennium Falcon. It's like, it's the same. I feel like they've been advertising the same movie for the past like 4 years. You know what I mean?
I think tonally too, there's kind of a difference between if you look at the Star Wars brand and the Marvel brand. The Marvel brand feels like a restaurant with a very limited menu. Like there's like 8 things, like you know what you're getting when you go there. With Star Wars, it's like a big menu that has like lots of different things. Like, oh, I'm not really into seafood, but they do seafood really well. With Marvel, you've had 10 years of basically Kevin Feige's vision. He's been telling us one story, and he's had he's had directors to kind of take over this one chapter of it, but it's basically Feige's vision, Feige's story, and the studio's given him creative freedom to basically do that. Whereas Star Wars, it's more of a team. There's a lot of different voices coming. You had like JJ's Force Awakens was very different from Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas are like creative consultants, but they don't have the creative control over what these stories are the same way Kevin Feige does at Marvel. So I can see why right now everyone who loves pizza, like they have like the best possible pizza they're gonna get. Whereas like when Last Jedi came out, there was maybe 30% of the fans there was like, this isn't the Star Wars movie for me.
And not even to underestimate Kevin Feige at like, sure, he's amazing as this storyteller, as architect of this universe, but also as like a businessman with the creative force to understand where to put what stories. Right, if you are, just in it for the action or whatever, like the movies and the fun stuff, the Thor Ragnaroks of it, right? But if you're into it for like a little bit more of like the drama, it's like, all right, that sounds like a character piece that we should put on Netflix, that we should kind of like let breathe a little bit. And then like, oh, well, you want like some hip punks or whatever? It's like, okay, well, we'll put you on Hulu because kids are the only people on Hulu. And then you're super nerdy, you want all the details. Well, you still have the comics. Like everything is kind of in its correct place. Meanwhile, Star Wars was kind of like, everything's going to be a movie. Like everything major is going to be a movie. And I don't care what you like about it. The prequels, like the first one at least, it's like, do you like palace intrigue? It's like, no. Well, it's a movie, and it's the biggest movie of all time. Could you imagine if those parts, the politics of the situation of the overtaking and formation of the Empire, if that had been a Game of Thrones-esque HBO series, and it's like actually like there's power dynamics and stuff, it could have maybe been this thing where like the universe was filling out in this way that was satisfying. Instead, it became straight up, I hate to say this because it's what we all are, but it actually became like nerdy to nerds to like Star Wars anymore to that extent, because I was like, oh, I mean, I don't love every detail about Star Wars universe, and you're making me have to go stand in line for a week for these details I don't care so much about. That's why my sister did not let me decorate my room in Darth Maul gear.
Listen, Darth Maul was cool.
I thought so too, and she literally, as I was ordering from Home Shopping Network, she said, wait, think, is this cool? And I was like, oh, God.
Listen, I think Darth Maul is the one thing that comes out of those prequels. Like, Darth Maul was cool.
He holds up. I mean, and look at you now. You've designed your whole room.
You guys are all in my bedroom right now.
That said...
my sister's not here.
That said, I am actually... I feel like I should be very cynical about Solo because I felt that way since it was announced. Like, why are you even bothering? The most recent trailer looks really cool. Like, I almost wish it was its own sci-fi thing and I didn't have to worry about the Star Wars baggage that comes with it. I just wish it was its own little sci-fi heist action movie.
I think we're all going to like Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're all going to like it a lot more than I think we've expected to like it. I think once it comes out, we're going to be like, you know what? No, Ron Howard pulled something really fun together.
It's going to be fine to really enjoyable. Like, I don't think I'm going to... There might be elements moments where I'm like, I'm not feeling this. I
No.
mean,
Like Ron Howard's
personally-
narration over the whole thing.
He
did
did it's really loud. He's like, okay, this is Phil Lord. I couldn't get around this. We didn't have enough time.
He's doing a Morgan Freeman narration instead of a Ron Howard. Yeah.
But no, like, and I mean, you brought up. I think my favorite point is just that there. As soon as you hit Avengers, there was a story, and then moving on, even though it's like 20+ movies after that, we had an idea of where it's going. And for me, looking at Star Wars, even though people will disagree in a million different ways, it felt like the story was done in 3 movies. And then after that, it's like, let's explore. But I'm like, why do I need to invest myself in this? At least Marvel, there is a payoff that was coming.
So is this them trying to course correct now by adding more characters and being like, uh-oh, we done messed up, and we have 4, maybe 6 really interesting characters from our original trilogy, and Marvel's like, welcome, meet my friends, and it's like they can't give enough movies out to how many characters they have that are interesting. So is this why they're maybe trying to
Like,
add
we're
more?
demanding more movies for more characters. Like, we want X-Men to come over because we want to see their take on it, and Fantastic Four because we want to see their
Right.
take on it. We want Defenders to come in the movies because we want to see what they're all like together. What was it? Lobster Man Scissors Fingers? Did you know, like, the Denny's, they released a bunch of characters from Solo?
yeah.
And I think he's not in this scene, but he's in another scene later on, but he's just a giant lobster, and it's like, I'm gonna buy the toy, but I don't want to know more about you.
He is somewhere in this. I mean, ultimately, these are all properties owned by Disney, right? So it's just saying, like, which of Disney's kids is gonna
be the most
impress
successful.
them the most? Yeah.
It's interesting. I think going back to what you guys are saying, I think this is even more specifically a problem for the most recent trilogy, because you had JJ come in with his vision, and then Ryan was like, no, forget that vision. I got this vision.
Yeah.
And he added characters that he wanted to do since he was a kid. And now JJ was coming back. It's like, well, I had more characters that I wanted to do when I was a kid watching these movies. And so it doesn't feel like, it feels like none of it really, it would have been better if you had one team right that, like, this is it. This is the trilogy. This is what we're building to. So it didn't feel like big course corrects every time a new person came in.
Yeah.
You know
And
what
I
mean?
enjoyed Last Jedi, but it does feel like it feels like fan fiction, even though, like, but like, what if Luke was angry all the time and like he drank milk out of this seal thing?
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think about this in the comments below. Yeah, this is, there's no one right answer to this, and we're curious to your thoughts. Is it something like, do you want a bit more like diversity in the kinds of stories you're going to tell, like here, or do you want to be like just sat down and be like, this is what the story is? Now go to bed and rest easy, and we'll kill off half the characters you love. But yeah, weigh in on the comments below. We're really curious what you guys think. But for now, let's quickly move on to another update. Big news this week: DC and Warner Brothers' upcoming streaming service announced a live-action Swamp Thing series produced by Aquaman director James Wan. Swamp Thing is Dr. Alec Holland, who gets transformed into a monstrous, magically empowered swamp creature. There's a whole Alan Moore mythology. It's very interesting. You should read more up on it. Now, the series is rumored to take on the point of view of Swamp Thing's love interest, Abby Arcane, and it'll have like a general horror tone to it. One of the writers is the guy who wrote It, and it'll join other series on this DC streaming service, Titans, Young Justice, and an animated Harley Quinn series. So
Yay.
something to look forward to there. Okay, everyone, Avengers Infinity War ended with a real shocker, and one last spoiler warning, guys. You really have had plenty of time to see it. Thanos actually uses the Infinity Gauntlet to snap away half the universe and to break the hearts of everyone who loves Spider-Man and Black Panther and the one guy who's really into Mantis. But if you were watching closely, right after Thanos returns from Soul World and zips away from Thor, the post-snap Infinity Gauntlet looks cracked and smoky and overcooked. Now, there's some debate over whether or not you can see Thanos wearing the gauntlet later, but in the final shot of the movie, if you were looking more closely, you can kind of see Thanos' armor hanging up off to the side, so he does have some of the stuff. It's a nod to the Infinity Gauntlet comics where Thanos retires on a farm and hangs up his armor on a scarecrow. It's kind of fun. But this smoky shot brings up a question. Is the Infinity Gauntlet broken now? Of course, Thanos could still open up a portal and escape from Thor, which required the Space Stone, but can he use the Infinity Stones in combination ever again?
He did mess up his arm pretty bad, it looked like, even like above it.
Yeah. Well, you point out something interesting there, because when you look at the movie, it's like, why are we spending so much time on Thor getting another hammer? Like, that feels like a real, like, just something we could have, like, streamlined, as entertaining as it is, because I like Thor with Rocket and Groot. But maybe we find out that the people that built the hammer also built the gauntlet, so maybe the stones are fine, but we need another mechanism, which actually looked like there was one sitting there, another mechanism to use it. Maybe that's why they went through the trouble of introducing it, because it'll matter in the next movie.
Yeah, real quick, I think, I'm not sure on this, but I feel like the thing that we see there is the mold for the gauntlet that they do make. But I do think that also means, like, we could make another one. But I think Eric's point is the one that I'm abiding by right now. They can't right now in its current state, it can't do it again.
Yeah, it cannot snap.
Maybe
It's
one at a time
go.
it can be used, but the idea of putting the Power Stone behind the, like the I guess the Soul Stone maybe is the one that's like wiping the universe out or whatever, but the thing that is enhancing the other ones, that's probably what broke it and overloaded it.
Yeah.
So I feel like, he might not
Yeah,
be able
the
to do
stones
that
can't be used in tandem. Like we saw in some of the battles, like he's using both the Reality Stone and the Space Stone at the same time, or he'll use the Space Stone to like phase shift Hulk into a mountain and the Power Stone to like punch Captain America out of the way. He can't do these things at the same time, at least anymore. And arguably the stones could be separated now.
Theoretically. And I would argue that I do think it's got to be relevant that we saw it so damaged because from a writing perspective, that's a fascinating situation to put yourselves in as the Russo brothers. Another brother team, the Coen brothers, famously had this rule where they would write a situation for their characters that was so difficult to figure out how they're going to solve this that if they could, as the writers, come up with a solution within 2 weeks, they were like, well, then this isn't hard enough. And they would make it even worse on their characters. So I feel like the idea that like, we're all like, oh, well, you could just get the gauntlet off his arm and do it. They're like, okay, so let's break the gauntlet. Like, let's give ourselves as many problems as we can, just so that in this year that we have of waiting, none of us are like, I know how he does it.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what it's 100% going to be? It's going to be their version.
I know how he does it.
It's going to be they're going to introduce a version of the Infinity Watch. Like, how many Avengers are left from the original team? 6?
6, yeah.
Each one gets a stone. They have to use it in tandem to undo the thing. So you're not using the mechanism.
Can you go in?
Yeah.
Can you go into
you
detail here?
So they all are holding one.
Yeah.
They push the beams together, and then
Captain Planet.
Captain Planet. Captain Planet.
exactly.
That's what it is. And it's Don Cheadle. It is Don Cheadle.
He's standing
All of a sudden,
he's
he's like,
standing in the
guys,
center.
what are you doing? he gets sucked into the little beam, and he pops out as Captain Planet.
So that might not be it, but it wouldn't surprise me if this is the mechanism that they used to introduce something close to Infinity Watch, and it would be these characters because a lot of them they're not going to keep paying Robert Downey Jr. the money they're paying him.
Yeah,
They
can
can't.
you
They just
can
can't.
you explain what the reference you're making?
So in the comics, because the Infinity Stones are so dangerous when brought together, they're divided up amongst a group of cosmic individuals, most of which we haven't seen. Drax and Gamora are in there. Adam Warlock is a part of it. You might have heard about him in talks with Guardians. And then Moondragon, which is a version of Drax's daughter, which is
much more
seriously.
interesting
If you go into like 60s, 70s. Cosmic Marvel, it's super confusing.
Here, actually adapt that to another team, not really, but that people want is Illuminati because they did the same thing.
Yeah,
Which
and
we
that
got
would
a
make
little taste of Illuminati in some conversations in this of like I was like, oh, I love these potential conversations that could happen, especially if they get Professor X.
In one of the Avengers teams, because they always like revamp it every couple months, but you find out that Black Bolt, Professor X, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and a couple other like big leaders for different teams in Marvel hid Infinity Stones in different places, but mostly on Earth, which was not a great idea in that story. But it does make it very interesting, so you could get like a version of that.
Yeah, that would make more sense with the characters we've been introduced to.
Yeah, so in that scenario, it'd be what, Black Panther, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange.
After they've used it, if theoretically once they fix everything.
Yeah.
Although I do think I would be shocked if we come out of this movie with both Iron Man and Cap fine.
I think Cap's done.
I think Cap
think
and
they
Iron
both-
Man are done.
They both like have such good reasons to leave at this point.
Yeah.
Robert
Especially
Downey
Iron
Jr.
Man,
seems
too.
like he likes it more.
Yeah, but I think what's good to point out is not only is the Infinity Gauntlet looking fried and broken, meaning that they can't do another snap. It means to me that this can't be reversed that simply. It's not like this is what if this was a light switch, it couldn't be flipped back off. You know, so I think it is critical, not just like the thread is over, but like the way to fix the thread or reverse the thread is no longer an option.
It's going to take at least 3 hours to figure out, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, oh boy.
Yeah.
Slightly
3
less,
hours
but
and like 20
Maybe
new characters
more.
that they'll introduce in Ant-Man and Captain Marvel probably. Well, let us know what your theories about the status of the Infinity Gauntlet are in the comments below and what different implications it being possibly broken are. Now it is time to move on to our new Rockstars news lightning round.
This sounds for me.
lightning.
You guys tweeted us question. We're going to fire them at each other, and we have to answer these questions as quickly and without hesitation as possible. Are we ready? Away we go. It's upside down. Sam at Shingler Ashley wants to know, what non-Marvel movie are you looking forward to?
Aquaman.
Oh yes,
Gotcha.
That sounds pretty fun. Gotcha. Philip, if Ben and Jerry's would make you guys ice cream, what would your flavor be?
Like joke. All of us?
Well, you, but yeah, we should all answer it. At TomFire8 wants to know.
The greasy.
Ouch.
Greasy.
Continue that sentence.
Grease lightning. It's a cooler word. It's a greasy dough, cookie dough.
Okay.
In a hat scoop, and DJ's there.
I got it. I got the hint.
You're the one. You make that joke so often about yourself that it's the word that comes to mind when I think of U.S. food, which is often.
Lightning.
DJ at Glum_Lee28 wants to know, what video game do you want to turn into a movie if it isn't one already?
Oh man, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. My knee-jerk reaction is to say The Witcher, but honestly, I'd rather see that as a series because it just lends itself to like a serialized or even like a Case of the Monster of the Week type situation really well. What's another? You know what? I just recently played the Uncharted games, and I think if you did it right, you run the risk of, because it's already kind of like a redo of Indiana Jones. So if you do it wrong, it looks like a redo of a redo. But if you did it right, it could be really cool, especially the second game.
I mean, those games are movies too.
And you get to play and are a lot longer. But hey, if you want a shorter one that you don't get to play, everybody get excited for it.
And Eric, I'm picking at Alex Vasey's question for you. Name one character that you think should have been killed in Infinity War and wasn't, and one character that you think should not have been killed.
I would do the Nebula Groot trade if you're going to keep some from the Guardians. I think, we'll see. Nebula probably has an important reason to stay alive. But Groot, it's going to be a bummer if I could always use more Groot in a movie.
So your argument to kill Nebula is just you just don't want her there, and your argument for Groot is you just want more Groot.
I do want more Groot.
I think that's super fair.
That's as good a reason as any.
I will say, I think that's really good. I agree with that reasoning. I will say that in the Infinity Gauntlet comic, Nebula's a big deal.
Absolutely. So that's probably why.
Groot is a big deal in Eric's opinion.
Listen, I don't blame him.
I think it's thicker if you want it to. Anyway.
Tweeting us all those questions and keeping out for our tweets next week. Thank you all. Next up, let's take a look at what we got in the pipeline for videos coming out on this channel the next week. Guys, it's going to be a lot more Infinity War stuff. We're going to answer a lot more questions that you guys have had, specifically about the timeline, how the timeline is different now.
Is it 6 years? Is it
6
8
years?
years?
Is it 8 years?
There's a lot of updates on this.
When did he get the gauntlet? When does Ant-Man the Wasp take place? We're going to look at all the evidence and piece it together for you. We're going to talk about Red Skull. We're going to talk about Thanos' motivation. The Black Panther Blu-ray came out. We want to talk about that a lot more. We're going to look at the future.
Look at that, so we got some deleted scenes.
Oh yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. Phase 4, how Infinity War has updated Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then Deadpool, it's coming out in a couple weeks, and Solo after that. So keep an eye out for all types of videos on that stuff. But for now, it comes time for our 15-second shout out. Each of us has 15 seconds to shout out, plug, or ramble about anything we want. If you go for 15 seconds, it's probably okay. But Sam, why don't you start?
DJ and I and a couple of our friends are doing a live show in LA. If you go to my Instagram or Only Stupid Answers Instagram, you can probably find a link to buying tickets. It's at the Open Space Cafe. Steve Zaragoza, Mike Falzone, Maud Garrett. We're going to be doing a bunch of different podcasts, like a little showcase. It's going to be a blast. There's going to be exclusive stuff there. Also, if you're part of the Only Stupid Answers Patreon, you can probably get a live stream version of it and a VOD version of that. So check that out. Tuesday, May 8 at 8 p.m.
Ooh, nice. For my 15 seconds, I've been watching season 2 of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. Guys, I love that show. I mean, it's like good, terrifying science fiction that is looking less and less fictional if you're following current events. But, it's just supremely well acted by Elizabeth Moss, and it was one of my favorite shows, season 1 last year, and season 2 is like going deeper and deeper into this terrifying world. So,
Talk about making it worse for your characters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My 15 seconds, I'll give most of it to DJ so you can talk about this thing. I'll just say Tale of Tales on Netflix. It's like if the Brothers Grimm, they stayed as creepy as those fairy tales should have been. Check it out.
That's awesome. So for me, if you go to chaostheorycomic.com, I have volume 2 of my comic book, Chaos Theory Zombies vs. Dinosaurs. It delivers exactly what's in the title. You got zombies fighting dinosaurs, a group of survivors that desperately don't want to be eaten by either. You might even have aliens. This was just a big...
He said might.
I wanted to do... Listen, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do something as comic booky as I could possibly do. Like, just fit every big idea I ever had. It's 5 issues in one volume. Each issue could be its own standalone blockbuster. I shoved as many ideas as I could in there. For new Rockstars listeners, if you go to chaostheorycomic.com and you pick up a reward tier $25 or more, and you can go, there's a little comment section on Kickstarter. You go in there, you said, hey, I'm from New Rockstars. I will match that up with your reward tier that you chose and give you a bonus reward, which is a postcard map of the United States in this world, and it's called
how it's changed.
Yeah, it's called the Undead States of America, and things aren't going so hot for everybody. But there's a lot of story details that I wasn't able to fit into the comic that will be on the backside of that postcard, and you'll get a good idea of what is going on in the world there with that. So if you go to chaostheorycomic.com, pick a reward tier $25 or up, and you say, hey, I'm from New Rockstars, that will go in there for you.
Florida looks good.
Florida looks good, and I'll say California.
Florida's doing all right.
California is looking pretty good. I wouldn't feel bad about that at all. Yeah, thanks, DJ, and yeah, definitely jump on that, everybody. We're gonna return to our trivia question.
I got it wrong.
Yeah, we'll see how that
but
goes.
But it depends on how wrong we all are.
Let's see.
We read each other.
Okay.
You got one that doesn't.
Got it.
Everyone got a different one.
Took me a second.
So just to remind everyone what the question was in Avengers Infinity War, Eitri, the blacksmith dwarf of Nidavellir, is played by Peter Dinklage. Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. What line does Eitri say to reference Game of Thrones? So let's go down the line and see what everyone said.
Okay, so this is Philip. He said there is incest in this universe too.
It's true.
Yeah.
In both universes. It's a callback.
Yeah.
All right, Erik said, hold the Thor, hold the Thor, hold the Thor.
That's good.
The character Sam said, you get to live, but your hands are mine.
I don't know.
That
I actually tried
if
this
there
time.
was one, I feel like that would be it.
Yeah, well, DJ said, yeah, that's what dying means, which I feel like that happened season 5. Who cares?
Yeah, right before they cut off Ned's head, he's like, only if I die. And they're like, yeah, that's what dying means, cut.
I think that's what the guy said when he got turned into a squished watermelon. He said that, and then...
DJ, what's the answer?
It's hold the door.
Oh.
Let's hold the door. Somebody,
Okay.
does he say hold the door?
He must say hold the door.
When the lens closes, are you kidding
Oh,
me?
he said hold the door.
Yeah.
He
man.
did
So
say
Erik
it.
And then
Definitely
eventually
not.
kind of hold the door,
Yeah.
Groot.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So it just do or just right
Well,
there.
one of these is definitely closer than the other.
Yeah.
All right. So who's closest judges? There's incest in this universe too, which is a fact. Hold the Thor. That's the closest. All right. Yeah, that's what dying means.
And then
And-
you get to live, but your hands are
Mine. Who's
To
the
be fair,
furthest?
the word dying is used in Game of Thrones.
Those lines from Game of Thrones?
I don't remember.
No, I
You get
just
to live,
thought
but
that
your
was
hands
a
are
line
mine.
that made sense for Game of Thrones.
Yeah. That's definitely in the Infinity War.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I don't
neither
think
of
that's
these-
in Game of
I don't
Thrones.
think that's a line in anything.
Hold the
What?
door.
There's
uh,
incest in this universe too. That's a line in most universes.
Not a line in any.
Hey, don't worry, everybody. There's incest here too.
You know that gold Voyager disc?
Yeah.
It's on that too.
Yeah, don't worry. It's in here too.
Okay, well, I have gotten closest, and then Philip, it sounds like, is our furthest
All right.
away. So just a reminder, I'll do our goodbyes. First, we're going to quickly run through our in other news headlines that we didn't have time for. Let's have a DJ read each of the headlines.
He's gonna have to
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, if you can lean in, they're on the screen here.
Hold on. Okay.
DJ's going to read the headline to set it up. Philip's going to have to make a joke at the end of each headline to cleverly riff on it. Is
You
everyone
got it.
ready? All right, here we go. Our first headline coming up right here.
Ryan Reynolds revealed that he has never seen his own Green Lantern movie.
Which is means that Ryan Reynolds is that much better off.
You already thought he was too bad.
Zing, bazinga.
Read a little slower.
Take your time.
Video was released of Mark Ruffalo accidentally spoiling the ending of Infinity War in an interview last summer.
turns out the Hulk is on his way. Oh God! To Holland because he's acting like Tom Holland.
Oh yeah! You got your way there. Just start the sentence and you'll find the end.
Yeah, eventually you'll get to that.
Han Solo director Ron Howard narrated a parody video of the Star Wars saga in the style of Arrested Development.
And what he didn't narrate was the allegations against Jeffrey Tambor. I don't know.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I just
That was left out.
He didn't narrate that part.
You know what? They said he'd come back.
I know, that's why that was on my sheet
weird.
today. I was
Anyway.
like, I can't believe Jeffrey Tambor's coming back.
Black Panther's deleted scenes include a clip of Wakabi, played by Daniel Kaluuya, arguing with Okoye, which test audiences suggested needed to be cut because Kaluuya's bad accent was distracting.
Cool, yeah. This was a good joke. It was a good joke.
Yeah. And then lastly,
Comedian Ben Schwartz revealed that in addition to voicing BB-8 in The Force Awakens, he also played one of the stormtroopers, because of course he did.
Its name is John Ralph E.O.
I got it.
Oh, God.
You did it.
Done. He did it. And he did a pretty good job.
Why do you guys watch this part?
Well, thank you for watching this week's episode of New Rockstars News, guys. I want to thank our hosts, Sam Bashor at Sam Bashor on Twitter, Philip Molina at Fimo, and DJ Wooldridge at DJ Talks Trash. And yeah, make sure to check out his what's the name of the
ChaosTheoryComic.com.
Yeah, and comment with your thoughts down below, guys. Tweet us at New Rockstars, like this video, share it around, and subscribe to New Rockstars for deep dives on all the stuff you love. Mostly, it's just been Infinity War stuff this week, but you know what? Other things will grab our attention in time. Until then, see you next week, everybody. Bye.
Fun fact: new pants, and I've been walking around all day with this sticker all the way down the back of my leg, which is cool.
Well, there's no way for us to cut that out because you said it too soon. So see ya.
New pants stars.
I needed to get it in there.
Pants stars.